All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Serious Angler Podcast, where every episode is dedicated to you guys learning more about bass fishing. And this year, what we're going to try to do for each Pro Tour is with Bass Pro Tour, Bassmaster Elite Series, and the NPFL. We're going to do our very best to get folks from the top three, top five from each event, get 5, 10, 15 minutes with each of them right after the event to give a little recap, baits, techniques, things that they used, and give you guys a brief update on how this event was won, the rundown of it. And of course, we're going to dive deeper into the events and such in the actual podcasts themselves, but we're giving you guys some more smaller clips here, especially for the YouTube folk, on how these events get won. And so we are kicking that off right now with the Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour, Lake Conroe's top three. And so we are kicking it off with Justin Cooper, Jacob Wall, and Colby Miller to figure out how these guys caught them to have a top three finish to start off the 2025 season. So without further ado, let's get into the champ himself, Mr. Justin Cooper.
Well, folks, we are here with the champ himself from Lake Conroe, Major League Fishing's BPT, Mr. Justin Cooper. Buddy, it's been a minute, but it's good to get you back on here, man. Congrats, champ.
Yeah, thanks, man. Means a lot. Glad to be back. Glad to be talking to you again.
Heck yeah. Well, so for the folks that are tuning in, I'll drop the link to the first show I think we did was like 4 years ago, or it was something. It was a minute ago, but
yeah, I think it was like 2020. It was after Toledo for a Toyota series, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, and so to put it in perspective for folks, this was pre-COVID. I was sitting at the Classic Expo. I think it was the one Hank won on Gunnersville. You were working the V&M booth, and that's where I think we met and started just talking fishing. And then from there, just got you on the podcast. And dude, now you're here, a freaking BPT champ. How does it feel, dude?
Man, it's surreal. It's I've never felt this obviously before, and I don't know how to put it into words. You know, how you feel? How you feel? I'm like, yeah, I feel great, but I don't know how else to describe it. It's so great, you know. Just blessed. That's the best thing that I can say. You know, everything went right. Well, not quite that last day. I had some key fish that got off and missed and this and that. But hey, when it's your time, it's your time. It coming down to the wire between myself and Colby Miller, which is a great friend of mine. Man, it was pretty cool for him. After me going back and watching how it went down, it was like, man, it was meant to be. You know, that's all I could say about it.
Yeah, for folks that may have missed the live stream, it was some very, very good TV to watch. It was exciting to keep up with, and
I highly advise going back and watching that if you have not seen it.
It's pretty gnarly. Yeah, we'll drop the link to it in the show notes, but it's crazy because you look at it. I mean, for me, from a fan perspective, it's obviously I was pulling for you to get your first dub, but I can see both sides where it's like if you're Colby fans, you're like, come on, there's one more. Like you're right there. Like you see him hook up in the last 2 minutes. You see that ruin it, and then if you're Justin fans, you're like, just stop catching fish. You're like, just get through these 2 minutes, and it's like a crazy emotion on both sides of it. So it's cool to see what happens. Hope this time will come. But
both Toledo Bend guys, and we've been friends for a long time. And he was actually in my wedding. I mean, you know, we've been buddies a while, and we have the same friend group. And all our big friend group, they all had a big watch party together. So we've seen some Snapchats and videos and stuff of them watching it go down and like their reactions. And it was pretty special. Like, you know, Colby catching one, they're like, you know, freaking out. And then it goes back to me and they're like, oh my God, you know, it's pretty special that the support group from them and just the reactions.
Now were your buddies placing money bets on who was gonna win between you and Colby?
Yeah. Knowing them, I guarantee you they had some bets on
it. Hey, as they should. That's what friends are for, right? That's awesome.
Yeah, that's right. I heard that there was supposed to be a drinking game going on, but I'm glad they didn't play it. Or they said they're glad they didn't play it, so they probably wouldn't have made it past the second period, is what I heard.
Yeah, between you two, 70 pounds each, like that would go haywire soon. That's wild. That's probably good. Yeah. Well, dude, so talk to us a little bit about any like big adjustments that you might have made? Obviously, there's a big adjustment. One being the new format, and we'll cap this off with that. But uh, any adjustments just in your fishing throughout the event? Like maybe it's an area thing, fish moving. What are some of the big adjustments you had to make?
Yeah, there was a big adjustment between period one on day one and period one on day two, and that it all had to do about area. I in practice, I found 3 or 4 different drains that had fish in it, floating around. They were suspended fish, and they were located in 15 foot of water, give or take a foot or two. And I had the one area that was around 10 foot. Well, I had one drain that I felt like was better than the others, and that's where I started day one. And I scoped through there, and the largemouth left, and the hybrids moved in. And I caught 10 or 12 hybrids in a row. And I said, this ain't it. And then I started scrambling, running some of those other drains that were close. Same scenario, bunch of hybrids. And I finally pulled into one that I caught a couple of hybrids at the mouth. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to go farther in. It was a warming trend. It was a little bit warmer that night. Maybe they moved shallower. And I had about 45 minutes left, give or take. And I relocated those fish about 6, 7 foot of water, even shallow. I think I might have caught 1 out of 4 or 5 foot of water, but they were at the back of that drain. And I ended up, able to boat 5 scorables, a couple non-scorables, and for the most part, unpredictable or unproductive sonar period. We knew that sonar period was going to play big and super important. If you picked the right period and if you took advantage, you were going to be great. And if you did not, you were going to be in a bad shape. Well, luckily, I went to the grass area where I found some fish in practice, got a few bites on a bladed jig and a lipless, and was able to get enough bites to kind of keep me in it, kind of keep me in the hunt, middle of the pack. And day two, I was like, man, if these fish went shallower, maybe I should go to the area where I found them in 10 foot. They were already kind of shallower. Even if they're not in 10 foot, I should be able to find them in 7, 6 foot of water, something like that. I know they're probably not going to go back out because it was kind of a warming trend. So you wouldn't expect them to go back to deeper water. And that's what I did. I started that period. Period one, day two, I dropped my trolling motor on my waypoint, and we can utilize our forward-facing sonar, our Garmin live scope, in our ride around. We have 30 minutes ride around. Well, I was running from the boat ramp to where I dropped the trolling motor was about a mile. Really long way. So I had a lot of time to look around before lines in. And when I dropped that trolling motor and started looking, they were swimming everywhere. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, this could go down. If half of these are bass, it could get right here in a hurry. And when it was lines in, it was all a blur until my official said end of period one. And I think I ended with 72 pounds and some change in one period. I think an MLF article said that was the highest ranking or highest weight in a single period since 2020 or 2021 on the Bass Pro Tour. Like it was insane. My official said the best stretch I had was 8 scoreable bass in 10 minutes.
Dude. And that's with putting him on the scale, like that whole thing, sign that, like all that. That's impressive.
That's putting him on the scale, standing back up there, immediately seeing one, casting to it, biting first cast, and putting in the boat and weighing it. Like it was pretty special. And then just to do that, utilize that area, it was great. I had to utilize that area for the second and the third and fourth day. They got a little smarter. They got, boat pressure started kind of getting to them a little bit as well. I had to end up having to share that area with a couple other competitors. So I knew they were the winning fish, but I didn't know if you could win off of them because of how we had to split them up.
Yeah, and that was an interesting part to watch of it, of like where were the groups of anglers at, and it's cool how it all went down. I mean, everybody, especially when you fish avidly, that feeling of like when you talked about you put your trolling motor down, and you saw them, like when it's about to go down, and that feeling is like, okay, we got a shot. Especially when you have that on tournament day, that's a good feeling to have on tournament day, especially the final day. But and so with that, I guess for the people that are listening, like kind of run through the baits that did most of the damage for you.
Yeah, so in my four face sonar period, it was one bait. It's a new bait that just hit the market. It's a Bass Pro XPS Rockin' Shad, and it's a new minnow style bait. Two sizes, 4-inch and a 5-inch, multiple colors. Color didn't matter for me. I utilized a few different colors. 4-inch was key though. They were chasing smaller bait, around 4 inches, and and I really feel like that bait was a difference. There was guys that were floating through there too beside me, and in that second day, I was catching 3 to their 1. Mark Daniels Jr. was through there, and he was like, "Coop, what are you doing? Like, you were absolutely wrecking them." Scroggins come through. Jacob Wall was there on the outside edge too. He was like, "What are you doing differently?" I was like, "Man, I'm fishing." But that bait right there is, I think it's about to take the market by storm. It kind of has wings on the side, but it gives a great rocking action in between that and an owner range roller head. It has a lot of that side to side movement that I think gets a lot of extra bites.
Now, if you could walk through like the setup for it, because I know a lot of guys are very different. We're actually putting out an episode this week that'll air. That's exactly about. It's basically the jig head minnow panel, if you will, and so we have a bunch of different array of guys that use different rods, reels, line, sinking line, non-sinking line. So we'll love to hear what you're using for that and your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so my line setup was a 15-pound XPS braid, high vis yellow, to a 12-pound XPS fluorocarbon leader. I could have went down to 10 or 8, but though I think the water had enough stain, it didn't matter. And if I would have went to 8-pound, then I'm having to grab a lot more of those fish than I could just boat flip. With that 12-pound, I boat flipped almost every one of them except for a couple 3-pounders, the 4-pounders, and then I had a 6-pounder out there as well. So obviously I grabbed those fish. But being able to boat flip all those 2.5, almost up to 3-pound fish was key. Saved a lot of time. And for rod setup, Bass Pro Shops is my title sponsor this year, and that Johnny Morris Platinum Series, the red rod, that's a great line of rods. That Platinum Series is phenomenal. I use a 7-1 medium light. So I like a medium light. It gives to me it gives a great bend, great action, but that length, a little added length. I know guys like a little shorter rod. I'm a little short myself, so I need a little more leverage and a little bit longer rod, not too long, but that kind of medium range 7-1 with that medium light, fast action. I like the fast action. There was a couple of slow-mo videos that I've watched here lately, or the past couple of days of them that they got footage of me on the water. And with that fast action, you could see that tip rocking back and forth when I was shaking that minnow. I was like, dang, that looks good. That rod is phenomenal. And they just dropped a brand new Platinum Series reel, spinning reel. So the same line, and it's phenomenal. The drag system's super smooth. It's it's one of the smoothest spinning reels I've ever used. I'm not a big spinning reel guy. I'll be honest with you. I'm more of a bait caster, chunk and wind kind of guy. But I feel like this setup that I've got it dialed in.
Heck yeah! Well, with that, to put a nail in the bait conversation here, what was the trap and the bladed jig you were throwing?
Yeah, so man, I utilized a lipless trap, and I was using a small one. I was using a 3/8 ounce because a lot of that grass when I got back there was at most 2 foot under the surface. That's where I felt like the majority of the fish were, and on the outside, the grass maybe come up to 3 feet or something like that. That's where I would use like a 5/8 trap, something like that, and get some bites out there. But they seem to be bigger bites. But that little small trap and burning that thing across the top of that grass, being a Toledo Bend, Texas guy, fishing over grass in the pre-spawn with a lipless bait is like a staple. Like that's just something you do as an 8-year-old is throw a trap out in the grass. I mean, been doing this for as long as I can remember. So I was super, super confident in that. Had that dialed in pretty good. Johnny Morris, Platinum Series rods and reels, that was key. 8:3 to 1 gear ratio reel to really burn that trap across the top. And then an XPS chatter bomb, which is their version of the bladed jig with a super shad trailer. That's their trailer as well. That bait, I didn't catch a lot of fish on that bait because I definitely threw a lipless more. But that bait there, I actually caught that 710 in the knockout round to get me big bass of the day on that bait. So without it, I may not even made championship round. So that was huge.
Yeah, and nobody ever argues catching an almost 8-pounder in a derb.
Ain't no doubt, man. Dude, when it locked it up, I was like, that's a catfish. There ain't no way. And it buried me in the grass, and I'm like, yeah, that's not a bass. And it finally come free, and she come up and head shook. I'm like, I got weak at the knees. I haven't even had a chance to go back and put the card in the computer and watch the GoPro footage from it, but I'm ready to check it out.
Yeah, I bet, dude. That's gonna be awesome. Well, man, I think to cap it off here, the last question for you is obviously being on the BPT last year, and then with this year and the format change, I guess being event number 1, what's your takeaways after having the new format for an event?
Man, I'm enjoying the format, obviously, for sure. But even before the tournament started, I was like, man, this puts us back not on a level playing field because there's always guys with advantages, disadvantages, and what comes with that. But that's going to get guys fishing again. Turn that stuff off and just get back to grassroots instincts. And we're about to see the best of the best who can be the best scoper, and who's going to be the best just fisherman. And the guy that's the best at both of those is going to be angler of the year at the end of the season. So I think it's great. I think it's great for viewership. I really expect those numbers to be way up. So super pumped about that. Man, it feels good to get back fishing too for myself. I love forward facing sonar. My first ever professional top 10. I utilized Garmin Live Scope to catch all 20 bass that I weighed in that tournament. But it's fun to just get back fishing, shallow power fishing, back to my grassroots where, that I remember as a kid on Toledo Bend, Red River. It feels good.
Heck yeah, dude. Well, I'll say I am absolutely psyched for you. I love to see all this stuff come full circle, seeing good people win. I think it's the reception you've gotten after the dub and the people that have posted, I think not only speaks about you as an angler, but speaks about you as a person, man. And it's only trophy number 1. So there's much more to come.
Awesome, brother. I appreciate it, man.
Heck yeah. Well, dude, appreciate you hopping on here quick. And for the folks that are tuning in, we are going to have Justin join the show here in the coming weeks. So you'll have him for longer. We had him a little snippet, a little cool, like winner's circle we're going to try to do here at Serious Angler for the events upcoming. And I got a feeling like this ain't going to be your last time on this little winner's circle segment we got going, buddy. But I appreciate you taking your time out, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And we'll be talking soon.
All right, man.
So there you have it, folks. There's the champ, Mr. Justin Cooper. I'll love to see everything come full circle and him get his first professional dub. 150 grand BPT trophy. Awesome to watch and very emotional. Love to see the passion that came out of him right there at the winning moment at the end. Super cool to see. Anybody that was watching felt that. And especially if you fish and you tournament fish, you felt what he was feeling. Or at least come from a place of understanding and dreams come true. It's a very overwhelming feeling. So with that, a guy that was so dang close and a great friend of our champion, Justin Cooper, is Mr. Colby Miller, who had some great heroics at the end, just came up a little short. And appreciate Colby for taking out time as well. So let's get into how Colby's Lake Conroe event went. All right, folks, so we are here with Mr. Colby Miller, hot off a top 3. Great start to the 2025 season on the BPT. Obviously, dude, just got home. It sounds like it's been a fun day of going all over the place, getting the truck fixed and everything for you, man. But any quick reflections on first derb of the year?
Yeah, dude, it was a crazy start. I thought I'd turn my phone on.
Oh.
Do not disturb. Hold on 1 second.
Oh, you're good.
We'll just start over.
I'm like, oh man, his service was so good.
All right, you got me now?
Yeah. Just feel like you can start over. Just like say, answer the question or whatever. However you feel like.
Edit it or however.
Yeah, it's all post edit, man. So no
Okay.
worries. Yeah,
All right,
you're good.
cool deal. Yeah. So, hot off the first derb, ended up second by pound and an ounce. It was man, a crazy last minute or minute and a half. I think with 40 seconds left, I needed a 2-2, and I called a 2-10 to take the lead with literally hardly any time left. And then I think there was 10 seconds in between my fish getting logged in, and then Coop caught one that weighed 110 and to pass me right back up. So it was kind of a crazy event. It's definitely more than what I expected. The score tracker is insane. Knowing what everyone else is catching, as soon as they catch it or how fast they're catching them. It's really, like I said, it's a crazy thing. And, if you start falling behind, them dudes don't let up. Like, they just keep catching them one after another. And so luckily this time I was kind of in the mix with everything. So I wasn't really falling behind, but I'm sure before the season's over, I'm going to be on the bottom end of things. And hearing that score tracker or listening to my official tell me that I'm falling down the leaderboard very fast is probably going to be a mental deal that's probably going to get to me. But to start the season off, I mean, everything kind of went great, and looking forward to getting a Harris chain.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. I've thought about that with the format of being told, what everybody has, and I feel like I don't know if I would want to know, because like part of me is like, yeah, because then you could try to make adjustments. Like if something's not working, you gotta change things up. But also, like you just mentioned, hearing people catch it, I think that would like almost like mess with my head and make you fish faster type of deal.
Right.
And that could obviously be a negative deal. With that, I'm curious because with Cooper, he went nuts in one of those periods and just racked them up. I'm curious hearing all those updates, what that was like from the receiving end.
So another thing is, like, I guess we get to pick, what we tell our official, how do we want our updates? And I would just tell each one of my officials, like, just let me know kind of like every time I catch a fish, let me know my weight and where I'm sitting at that point in time.
Mhm.
And then, if I want to know who's doing what or who's catching them, then I'll ask. But each day I just told each official, like, just let me know where I'm at when I catch a fish. And then I don't really need to know every update. But there was a couple times that, like the last day, the official would tell me pretty much everybody's catch. So it was definitely crazy.
Well, throughout the tournament, was there any like big adjustments you had to make from that at all, or did you kind of stay to the game plan?
No, pretty much stayed to the game plan. I had one little area that I scoped each day. Me and Justin Lucas shared it the first 3 days, and then the final day, man, it was fished out. It was like 100-yard stretch, and we were just literally going back and forth. And I'm pretty sure we caught every bass that swam in that drain. And like I said, the final day, I tried to move around, make some adjustments during the scoping period, and never ran into them. And then as far as the grass, man, I'd done a lot of practicing in the grass. Or should I say, I'd done a lot of practicing just fishing with scope, not paying attention to scope or turning it off, whatever, during practice, and just tried my best to figure out a deal that I could do, knowing that I wouldn't have scope for 5 hours of the day. And I was able. I guess it was kind of like a bait deal for me, which everyone was throwing a trap or a chatterbait or whatever, and I just tried to throw something, not the normal Toledo bend or Texas colors, red. I ended up throwing just a shad colored trap, and then I was throwing a hybrid hunter, and then I threw a chatterbait a little bit the final day. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I just tried to do something a little bit different than probably, and I don't know what everyone was throwing, but just tried to do something that was a little bit different. Just because, man, the whole field was pretty much in Caney Creek, that one creek. So you put all of those guys in there, they're gonna find the best stuff, and they're all slinging. We're all slinging the same kind of baits. So you gotta make some kind of little key adjustment that will trigger a couple more bites. And I think luckily I was able to figure something out, like I said, with a shad colored trap, and I was throwing a 1/4 ounce, a real small profile 1/4 ounce trap. So
It's going for the
yep,
numbers of
yep,
bites versus just the big bite.
right.
With that, what's your setup on that trap for like rod, reel, line, all that?
So I was throwing a Edge 725. It's a 7.72, like a medium heavy rod. An Abu MGX. I think it's a 6.2 gear ratio reel, and then I was throwing 12-pound Berkeley Trilene on it, just because it was so light. I was trying to throw a lighter line to let the trap get down a little bit deeper and just kind of slow roll it through that deeper grass.
You probably almost got to at that 1/4 ounce, right? Just so it doesn't
Yeah,
completely rise to the surface too fast.
right.
Yeah. And
And
so
then
I guess
during my scoping period, I was just using it's a prototype rod that hasn't came out yet. It's also from Edge, and then a Xenon, Abu Garcia Xenon rod or reel. I mean,
nice.
so
Are you on the sinking braid train, or are you just running the same old braid?
yeah, no, just the same braid.
Nice.
I've
Okay.
I've tried the sinking braid. It's really really good stuff. I don't have a lot of it just yet, so I'm still kind of using some forward braids, some non-forward braids. So
Yeah. All right. What's the were you throwing like a jig head minnow and stuff? I
yeah,
assume.
yep,
Well,
yep.
what jig head and minnow are you throwing if you're if you're willing to disclose to the
Yeah,
folks?
no, it's no secret, man. I was throwing a Queen's tackle, a 1/4 ounce head, and then just a baby Z2. I was throwing in the Laz Tech just because if you were to throw something that's regular plastic, you'd be wasting time getting down if they tore your bait up. So I was just trying to throw something that I could catch numerous fish on and not have to, get down and change baits or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that makes total sense. Just the time it takes to swap baits, that 15, 20 seconds, say if you got the pack
Absolutely.
on the
Every
front deck.
second is crucial in that deal, dude.
Yeah. Was it the normal jig head or is it the rolling one that they got with the line tie in the back?
No, I throw the normal one.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Well, cool, man. I guess from there, obviously pretty fresh on the BPT, but from the format compared to, being able to use forward every single period, whether it's for all 5 or every fish counts, only being able to use 4 for one period of the 3. What's your takeaways after fishing that?
Yeah, so coming into it, it was very scary for me. I feel like I've gotten a lot better in the last, say, year and a half using scope, utilizing scope. And so coming into it, it was scary. I mean, there's still several of the older guys that's been in the game for forever before live scope was ever a thing, and they were kicking everyone's butt without it. So when it came out, a lot of the younger guys started getting good with it, and then now it seems like majority of everyone is just amazing with it. So out of the scoping periods, yeah, it was kind of nerve-wracking going into it because those guys are going to catch them whether they have it or not. But somehow or another, we got lucky and found a couple little deals that were working, But
Yeah.
as far as the rest of the season, I don't know. I'm just going to do the best I can, find an area that's got the biggest population of fish and roll with it.
Heck yeah. And so would you rather there be no forward or are you cool with the 4 periods that you're trying to make hay like the rest of them?
No, I wish it was all day forward, but I mean for the world to see, I think it's a really good format the way they have it now.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, that is one thing the Serious Angler crew, we talked about it, that we think was awesome to go coming away from it was we're seeing a diversity of stuff and watching Talk throw a chatterbait in the grass. Like, that is stuff that we, as fans are glued to, right?
Right.
Watching different things and people like ourselves here, like regardless if you're using forward or not, regardless of what you guys are doing at all, we're glued to it because we're avid learners. We want to see what yourself, what adjustments you're making. This is why we're having you on the show. It's just to learn from you. And obviously because our fans are in the same boat. So it's cool to see that. But I think to your point from the world of fishing, not just the crazy nut jobs, like ourselves, they need to see that stuff. And so I think if
Right.
MLF continues to do a good job of keeping camera boats, with some guys that, might, especially that aren't in their forward facing period, we're going to see the TV do well. And I was really excited going this year because I think MLF made the best move of the three of having that. Cause I think you're forcing everybody to put it down for 2 periods, the majority, 2/3 of the day. And so that, correct, that causes the greats to, the Aylers, the Wheelers, the young guys like yourself, the Beckers that have, established themselves already. You're seeing all of them have to do what you guys did this past weekend at Conroe. So I'm looking forward to watching you guys head off the rest of the schedule and do that. But with saying so, I guess to cap this off with you, man, one tournament the rest of the year, is there one that's highlighted on your schedule? Or are you just looking forward to the next one?
Man, I'm just looking forward to each one of them. I've been to a couple of the places that we're going. I've never been to Saginaw, but I think I've been to the rest of the schedule. I've been to all of the lakes. So looking forward to all of them, but no, I don't have one circled on the schedule that I'm like, I'm gonna do good in that one. It's anybody's ball game in my opinion. You go out there and you think you've had a good practice, found a good amount of fish or big population of fish, and then they roll out on you, and you could go from hero to zero just from practice to the derb. So
yeah,
it's definitely, you just got to play it by the seat of your pants, roll with it.
Yeah. Heck yeah, dude. Well, first one of the year, and I've just been fresh on the BPT. Was there any boats you saw in the morning before takeoff and everything that you're like, oh, I'm competing against them? Holy crap.
Every single one of them, dude. It's mind blowing. It doesn't seem real to be in this deal. It's crazy. It's a dream come true.
Heck yeah, man. That's awesome. Well, for what I'll do for the folks that are tuning into this, whether they're watching on YouTube or listening on podcasts, your social links will be down there so people can go and follow you, keep up with it. Encourage you guys to obviously watch the live coverage. If you missed especially the end of day 4, if you missed that, you need to go back and watch that, because that was some incredible TV to watch, and was cool to learn after the fact that you and Justin were as close as you guys are. So that helps. And he informed me of your guys' friend watch party / drinking game that they came up with and decided it was smart to not do that.
Right. Yeah. I think when I got home, I was told that it was a pretty good time for the whole group.
That's awesome, dude. I mean, we this is the week we're hearing a Super Bowl watch parties, but I'm all about more of a tournament watch party than a Super Bowl watch party. Although I am a Birds fan, I got to say that, so I am excited. But I'd much rather be in on a tournament watch party. That sounds like more fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, dude, again, thank you so much for taking time out, coming on here, and looking forward to getting you back on Serious Angler for a full show, man.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
And there you have it with Mr. Colby Miller, your second place finisher from the MLF Bass Pro Tour event on Lake Conroe. Looking forward to getting Colby more on the Serious Angler podcast, on a more long form, in-depth podcast to really learn more about him, how he fishes, and some of the tips and techniques that can help you guys catch some more fish or become better anglers. And so with that, another guy that's actually been on Serious Angler that came in 3rd place in this event, first BPT event, top 3, Mr. Jacob Wall here, man. Mr. Jacob Wall, hot off a top 3 finish. It's a great way to start the BPT season, man. I guess kind of give the folks a little recap on how the event went from your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, going out there on that final day, my ultimate goal was to win the tournament. I've been doing this now. This is my 7th season fishing, professionally. So I've been doing this for quite a while. I guess you could say I'm kind of seasoned at this point. And so I've been around. I've seen my fair share of tournaments, and I've been in some decent positions before. And this week I was in one of the best positions to win that I felt like I've ever had. And man, I could just taste it. I was so close. I felt like I was around all the fish that I needed to be around. I felt like I was adapting throughout the week, finding new patterns, finding new bites, figuring out how to coax fish into biting that were still there, that I was, catching on certain baits that maybe stopped biting those baits. And sorry, my truck's signal is going crazy. Stop signaling left. Okay.
Life on the road.
It is 100%. Yeah, we're driving back home right now. But I was constantly learning stuff, constantly figuring stuff out. And man, I really felt like this could be the one that I was going to win. But I had a bunch of people tell me after the event that they, that I have nothing to hang my head about. I left it all out there, and I kind of knew that in the moment. Like I was fishing like my literal, butt off, dude. I mean, I don't know if I've ever fished that hard, and I was trying to make it all work, man. I mean, I figured that dock would work. That last minute dock decision to go, throw that mag draft up there next to that dock was one of the coolest fish catches and just decisions I've made in a big tournament, probably potentially in my entire career. And my intuitive sense right now, angling, is just better than I think it's ever been. And I was talking to Colby last night, Colby Pearson, one of my best buddies, and we were kind of chatting, and I was telling Michaela too, kind of the same thing. I really think that forward-facing sonar has enhanced my ability to go out there and instinctually fish. And the reason that I say that is because I think that it's given me eyes under the water for so long that now that I'm able to kind of utilize that information with that thing shut off, man, I don't think I've shut off my active target like I did in this tournament since it's been on the boat. So, like, I didn't really know what my intuition was going to do without it. And, man, I've always been a pretty good intuitive angler. I feel good about what I do on the water. I always kind of have. But with that technology and with knowing what the patterns of the bass are and kind of understanding the movements of them and how they like to feed and how they like to set up on certain areas, just looking at them on a graph, looking at them on that screen, so many different places, so many different times, casting at them with so many different baits, I was amazed how that played into those periods when I wasn't able to use it. I was like really blown away at how my decision making had advanced because of that technology being in play for so long before that. So it was really cool. I mean, the format was great. The tournament was great. I mean, I could keep talking, but shoot me another question.
Yeah. No, you're good, man. I love that point there because I think that's the one thing while there's these forward facing arguments and debates here and there, I think the one thing that people can't argue is the fact that we are learning so much more about these fish because of the technology. And that's like exactly what you stated there is you're utilizing the information that you learned from the tech when the tech's not even on. And that's something that you wouldn't have been able to learn without and that's a great incentive for those anglers, even if you're not fishing tournaments, to have that technology, just because it's a great tool to go out there and whether you're actually wetting a line or not, it's a great one to go out and simply just use and watch and see it. Watch these fish are doing, interacting with each other. It's a great way to keep learning. I love that fact. So I guess my one question to you would be, you mentioned some adjustments you made. Were some of those bigger adjustments that you made throughout the tournament that you think got you in the top three at the final day?
Yeah, so I think the major adjustments were just kind of understanding the movements of the fish. Of course, that one area that I found that Justin Cooper and I were sharing was loaded with bass. We were all catching them in the morning in there. There was like 5 or 6 of us in there in the beginning of the tournament, and it kind of dwindled down to just Justin and I by the end. And man, that area was really crucial. That area stayed very consistent throughout the whole week. We were able to go in there every morning and pluck out like somewhere between 20 and 50 pounds for the period. And so that area was a huge player for me. I was dropping the guppy head on them. I got it on my shirt right now. Dropping the guppy head on them. And, I had a little minnow on there. I was utilizing a little prototype minnow that I'm coming out with Duckett, along with another piece of plastic that everybody kind of probably knows about. I'm not going to sit here and say the name because it's not a company that pays me, but it was a good decision to find those fish in practice. I went back in there and decided to look in that shallower water. That was the one key thing that I think was a big player in the event. That area we were fishing was only about 8 to 10 feet of water, and that's not traditionally where you use your forward-facing sonar. And so it was really neat being able to go back in there, find those fish. I realized that almost all those fish in that area were bass, and I think some guys were maybe dealing with trash fish, and that area that I was in was like 98% largemouth, which was a big deal. It kept me in front of fish all day. I wasn't, or at least all morning, I wasn't having to guess what I was throwing at. I was just throwing at marks instead of having to sit there and think about what it was. Obviously, you'd see the occasional giant blob move through, which was your carp or your big catfish or something. But for the most part, man, it was just that area was my main player. That's where I stacked up the most weight. And then after that, I was just kind of fluidly fishing, using a vibrating jig a bunch, just your standard, like I won't, sugarcoat it, half-ounce jackhammer, with a variety of different trailers on there. I caught them on a few different trailers, a few different colors throughout the week on the jackhammer. The best color seemed to be the bruised green pumpkin for me. I caught my biggest fish and most fish on that color, and ultimately, that was a big player for me. And then, that final day I had to pull out a jerk bait, and I started jerking like I used to without forward facing sonar. And man, that's where I cut my teeth with a jerk bait. That's one of my favorite techniques is jerk baiting. And so it was super cool for me to be able to pick that thing back up and get in that rhythm, get in that feel of jerk baiting over that hydrilla. I've done that so many different times, and fish grass with a jerk bait so many different times like that. And I made that work, and I put a bunch of fish in the boat. Actually, maybe it wasn't a bunch, but it was a few fish in the boat fairly quickly, and turned my really slow second period into a very pretty productive third period yesterday. And then, man, that final decision to go slide over to that boat dock, I just saw the conditions set up right. I had a guy ask me, he goes, "It sounded like you knew that fish was there. How did you know? Did you see it in practice or something?" And I just kind of looked at the guy and smiled, and I said, "No, man, I didn't see the fish. It was dirty water. Like I just knew it was going to be there." Like, he's like, "Well, how'd you know?" And I was like, "Just by intuitive sense, man. Like I just could feel it. Like I could just tell the fish was going to be there. Like the conditions were right, everything was right. I pulled up to that dock. I mean, it was just right. Like I could tell it was going to happen, And I spoke it into existence." And went over there and executed on it, which is sometimes, the hardest thing to do. And really what was crazy to me was that spot was like I don't know, in my opinion, a 1 to 2 fish spot. It was not a place where I felt like I could go catch a ton of fish. So for me to go over there and catch 3 yesterday, like I did, was pretty incredible. I gave myself a legitimate shot to win. And man, I just needed to have one more big one come up and bite that mag draft. I was moving around fishing different docks, fishing other little high percentage places in that last period with like 30 minutes left, trying to put one more big fish in the boat. But ultimately, I just couldn't get it done. And man, hats off to Justin Cooper. He had a great tournament. He did kind of a similar thing to me. It seemed like he kept learning throughout the entire event. He didn't have a great start to his event, but he kept learning and learning and learning. So it was just overall, I worked really well with Justin in that area, gained a new friendship with him, and I wasn't didn't know him real well. And after this event, I gained a lot of respect for that guy. He and I fished extremely well together. We were around each other, chit-chatting, having fun. His family was cheering him on. His family started cheering me on, and to me, that means a lot. Like, they saw the way that I treated him on the water, and they respected me that much that they started cheering me on. That's pretty unusual to have that happen in a big tournament like this. And man, it really means a lot to me, man. I work hard to put a professional outlook out there. I try to be very professional on the water. I like to show my personality, and I like to talk. But man, it's just great to be able to see that there's anglers out there that are not going to be at your throat if you're around them fishing. And I talked to him halfway through the tournament at the second day. I was like, "Hey man, like, just so you know, like, I know what's going on in this area. I saw you come in there and catch all that weight that second day in that one little zone. And late in that day, I realized as I worked around in my area that the bait fish had slid out to him." And I told him that. I said, "Hey man, I realized these shad, these bait, this bait, it slid out to you. I found these fish in practice. I just want you to know that I'm going to be fishing for these fish. Like, I've been following these fish. It's not like I was going in on him because he was catching fish. It was like I realized that my fish were moving, and there were plenty of fish for us to both catch what we needed to catch. And man, it was just perfect. It was so cordial and so clean how everything worked in that first period. And then after that, it was a shootout to see who could go catch him the best fishing. just hoping, not scoping.
I love to hear that. I think everybody that's tuning into this loves to hear those kind of stories of guys that can cooperate best in the water. And that's what you said right there is a great lesson for everybody that's tuning into this, of the fact of communication. It's the easiest thing on the water especially when you're in a tournament where, money incentivizes emotion sometimes for people to get a little heated, a little too fast. And it's pretty easy to be like, hey man, do you care if I go over here? Hey man, you cool if I do this, that? Like, it's very easy to start with one question that can remove a lot of conflicts per se on the water. But it's awesome to hear that, that you said that the newfound friendship and everything. Justin's a great guy. He's the guy, actually, I mentioned to him because we had him on, he's on this top 3, but I met him back before, it was the classic that Hank Cherry won at Gunnersville, and he's working the V&M booth, and that was when I first met Justin. And so it's cool to see full circle, and for both of you guys, really, because I've been following along with your YouTube for years, and so it's cool to see you both now on that podium, and it's only event 1, so you guys got a whole year left to get back on that podium again and get, of course, back on the little top 3 winner circle, if you will, show here. But man, you did a perfect job of already explaining your top baits for me. So you're the perfect podcast guest because you answer all the questions before I need to ask him. So I think before I leave you, how was it to fish the new MLF format?
Yeah, the new format's phenomenal, man. The being able to turn that forward facing on whenever you want, declare that before the period starts, and that's a super cool format, being able to do that. You really have to put a lot of strategy into it, which I like. I've always been very strategic, and man, it just adds a whole other element to it. It makes it very, very challenging, especially if you decide to use that thing in the wrong period. Thankfully, all week I chose the right period to use it, and that's ultimately why I'm sitting, finishing 3rd place in the event. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge. I'm sure not all the events this year I'm going to make the right decision. So it's going to be one of those challenges. It's going to take some time to get used to. I hit the nail on the head this week, but every event's going to be different throughout the whole year. When you're going to be able to use that, when you should use it, do you even need to use it? There's a lot of cards that you kind of have to play and figure out when to use them. But ultimately, I think it's great for our sport. I think it diversifies the content. I think it diversifies us as anglers. I think it shows that we're not just scopers anymore. Like, I got deemed as a scoper for the last couple of years, and I'll be honest, I don't like that. I thought about buying a hat that said scoper and just rocking it, because, like, whatever. Like, if you want to call me a scoper, have at it, dude. Like, I can go catch a bass on a swim bait. I can go catch a bass on a jig. Like, give me a 10-inch swim bait, and I'm just as confident as a 4-inch minnow. You know what I mean? Like, I've caught giant bass doing crazy stuff my whole life, and that's who I am, man. Like, I pull out swim baits when guys think that it's crazy to throw that stuff, and I love that I can showcase that now, and that's who I am as an angler, and it really allows me to show who I am, and I'm not just a scoper, and I'm not just a screen starer. So ultimately, the last couple of years, that's what I've had to do to compete. If you don't have that thing on all the time and you're allowed to use it all the time, you're going to get beat by it. So that's why I've been using it so heavily, and that's maybe why I've been deemed that. But yeah, man, I've got one other thing I want to leave, or say on here, a little quick story that I've said it a number of times this week to a number of different people. It was one of the most awesome fish catches, craziest things I've done in my career. It didn't get on camera this week, but it was arguably even crazier than the fish I caught in the last minute on that mag draft, believe it or not. So on the 3rd day in the knockout round, I'm sitting there. I have 3rd period. I'm sitting with 63 pounds, 12 ounces. I've been sitting on that weight for an extremely long period of time. Only caught 1 bass in that 3rd period. I'm sitting there, and I've been like an hour and a half into that period, and I only had that 1 bite. I was starting to mentally okay, like, am I losing track of these fish here? Like, what's going on? Like, I need to catch one just to build a little bit more confidence back up, and also keep my momentum going for the next day, if I make it to the championship round. So earlier in the day, I was fishing this little point. Justin Lucas and I were sharing it. He was on one side, I was kind of on the inside, and he was on the bubble. So I decided, I looked over at him, I said, hey man, do you want to fish this? Like, is this something that you're trying to rotate through? And he goes, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to fish it. And I said, all right, man, I'm going to get out of here. You have at it. Catch him, try to make the cut. So I got out of there. He made the cut, ultimately made the cut. And I don't know if it was because of my decision to let him have it. I don't know. I just feel really good about what I did, letting him have that place. So anyway, I left, I go do my thing, and then I'm in that position where I need to catch that one more, 2-pound fish in order to just build my momentum. I was like, I want to catch one more just to keep my momentum going. So, man, I roll over to this place. I go set down on my waypoint. As I'm going there, Wheeler is on the bank about 250, 300 yards behind me, but far enough to where it's like, he's way down the way, working his own little stretch. There's a pocket between us, plenty of water between us to where, I don't know, maybe it's a quarter mile. It's a long ways. Anyway, dude, he's working that. Justin's still on the end of the point. I guess he had slid back out. He'd probably worked through that zone and then came back out. And then Sheffield's out there deeper, live scoping. Man, I pull up to this point. I sit down on my waypoint. I drop my power poles. I make 2 casts with the chatterbait. On my second cast, I catch a 6'11", biggest bass I caught the entire tournament, right in front of Wheeler, Lucas, and Sheffield. Around all of them. I catch this bass, I strap my rod, I put it all up, and I drive out of there and I leave and go to the next spot. I sit down and power pull, and I can barely even retie my chatterbait because my hands are shaking so bad, dude. It was the craziest fish catch. The fact that I rolled in there, and I wasn't trying to catch that big of a fish. I was just trying to catch a 2-pounder, but man, it was just an absolutely surreal.
All right. Yeah, we'll figure it out, man. I'll shoot you a text, but you guys get home safe, and I appreciate you taking time out, man, for real. So huge shout out to Jacob. Appreciate him trooping through and being super flexible, coming on here as he's driving home. This might be an interesting little sub-series for you guys, especially on YouTube, and trying to get these guys to have good service. That might be a big challenge of this one because guys might be driving home, things of that nature. Sometimes we might not be able to get the top 3 on. It might have to be top 2 or first and third. Either way, we thought it'd be a cool little quick hitter, especially coming hot off a tournament for folks that either live in the region or want to see more in depth of how these guys won and how the tips and techniques that they did it and some of the takeaways that they had from the event. We're hoping that this can be a great little content piece for you guys. So comment down below if you like it, any feedback you might have, any questions that you'd love for us to ask moving forward as a consistent question to be thrown at these anglers. But most of all, appreciate you guys taking time out of your day, tuning in to the Serious Angler podcast. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for a new episode of Serious Angler.